This is my ME3210 Design and Manufacture Project 2, and my name is Ryan Mack. The main focus area for today's presentation is on human-centered design and ergonomics. So, why is this an important aspect in design and manufacturing? Well, this is because user experience is a major focus in product design. Bad user experience directly results in poor sales performance, as people will simply use competitors' products if they deem it to be better. The interest areas of human-centered design cover human psychology, user behavior, and system interaction. And I personally have an interest in designing products to be more user-friendly, so this is a great area for me to be talking about for this project. Here is one real-world example based on me, my personal preferences, and empirical testing. I've driven multiple cars before, and I can say with pretty good confidence that I believe Japanese design cars to definitely take into account of the human-centered aspect far more than American designs. For example, the Mazda CX-5, which is a Japanese design car, has features such as physical buttons, um, a touch screen panel that isn't too big or intrusive, and other sorts of small features that make driving this car a joy. On the other hand, the Ford Edge, an American design car, takes away many of these features and things that users would deem convenient and replaces it with other things, like, for example, the lack of a proper stick shift, even in an automatic car, is quite annoying. And another minor feature that Ford missed on their cars is when closing the windows, you have to hold the button to close the window all the way, as opposed to just pressing it up once and the window closes all the way by itself. These sorts of minor features make the Ford a much less enjoyable car to drive, and this will definitely inform future car purchasing decisions. So, how does this work? Well, human-centered design is design focused on users' needs, preferences, and limitations, and it uses an iterative design process focused on testing and optimization. The first step in this process is empathy, where you would have to first identify a need and see what things people find problematic. Two, we then define the problem and see how we could possibly go on solving this problem, which leads us into three, ideating. We brainstorm ideas and solutions and test them and see how it could work. Four, prototyping. Designs are then made that might potentially solve the problem and seeing what they could possibly be like. Five, testing. We then take these into the lab to test with users to see what they prefer and whether or not our design successfully met users' preferences. The focus is on usability, comfort, safety, and accessibility. Human-centered design is present all throughout industry, from consumer electronics to household appliances, automotive design, as discussed before, and the provision of healthcare, especially as this is definitely a very human-first sector, manufacturing, and software. Let's take a look at some case studies. Venmo. In the United States, peer-to-peer transactions are often a pain. Prior to the advancement of apps like Venmo and Zelle, the ways that this was done was probably by cash, which is very clumsy and required you to have exact change. Other solutions, like bank transfers, could take a few business days or incur costly service charges, not desirable for someone wanting to pay their friend back for a taco they bought over dinner. Venmo identified this problem and created a free service allowing users to pay others using a digital wallet, a wallet that you can easily transfer money into using a debit card, greatly introducing the convenience of peer-to-peer transactions. It allows users to send and request money easily without having to travel to the bank or carrying lots of change. With the tap of a few buttons, money could be transferred between people easily. Groups features also allowed it to greatly increase the convenience of splitting payments among a friend group, automatically calculating how much each person owns a different person and making money requests and the math much, much easier. Venmo is an example of a successful business that has successfully leveraged human-centered design to solve a major problem, and that has clearly paid off for it. Another case study is Uber. Many cities lack good public transportation and often have very few taxis. An example is the city that we all live in, Atlanta, Georgia. With Uber, Uber allows riders to easily connect with drivers who are looking to make a little bit of money and take people around in their own personal cars. This made almost everyone who was interested and anyone who had a car into a taxi, and anyone could request trips online and easily travel from point A to point B. The rise of Uber allowed a great increase in accessibility of most American cities to people who didn't drive, like younger kids without their driver's licenses, older people, and people who simply didn't own a car nor wish to drive. Uber allowed transportation to take a huge change, and this was so successful they even branched out into food delivery, which basically took the person out of the picture and replaced it with food so that people could order food and have it delivered with convenience from almost any restaurant they wanted, all for a small fee. Uber is clearly one of the greatest examples of user-centered design and has become a household name throughout the years. Future opportunities include the rise of new technology revolutionizing convenience by identifying pain points in people's lives and introducing solutions. Aging populations increase demand for accessible services. Workplace health, safety, and productivity improvements gaining in popularity. And with plenty more opportunities available, the advent of AI, virtual reality, software personalization, and wearables, the future of human-centered design is looking bright. The skills needed to succeed in this industry are numerous, but are all pretty accessible to any designer. These include technical side CAD, human factors analysis, prototyping, analytical skills, including user testing, data interpretation, and usability metrics, soft skills, including empathy, collaboration, user interviews, specific software for each industry used for optimization, and finally, many industries also have smaller sets of software that are too numerous to list, but will be greatly helpful in human-centered design. I hope to be able to take human-centered design into industry with me and design products that work with the end user as best as possible. I would like to work in consumer-facing industries where I can make a real impact. And some of the sources I used for this include The Design of Everyday Things, a book published by Norman D.A. in 2013, The Field Guide to Human-Centered Design by IDEO in 2015, and a McKinsey & Co. article called The Business Value of Design in 2018. And that is the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening.